What is up, guys? David Zhou here, and you guys like this new lighting setup? I saw YC Imaging's video, and I saw the way he had his lighting set up, and I was like, you know what? Let me experiment with that lighting, and I'm really digging this, how this looks right now with the wide-angled lens, and I dig it. Anyways, welcome to how to edit good B-roll. Now, if you haven't seen the first video, go check it out. It's going to be how to shoot good B-roll, and that's going to have a lot of the foundational knowledge. It's kind of be like a prerequisite to this video. But now that you have your creamy, buttery, smooth B-roll footage, let's talk about tips for editing it. So in the last video, I briefly brought up things like shooting in different frame rates, like, 120 frames per second or 60 frames per second. Now, just because you shot it at 120p doesn't mean you have to do slow motion with it. So let's talk about utilizing frame rates, slow motion, normal speed, and time lapses to benefit your B-roll / video. So a really big thing I'm going to keep hammering down on in this video and on a lot of the videos on this channel is going to be intentionality, right? Depending on what you want to do with your B-roll, what you want the B-roll to convey, what the video is about, that's how you should edit your B-roll. So even if you shot it at 120p, maybe you don't need to play it back at, like 4 times slow-mo. Maybe you can just get away with just playing it back normally. So when would you use things like slow motion versus normal speed footage? Well, first of all, is it a standalone shot? Is it just a sequence edited to transition from one area to the next area? Let's say I'm vlogging. Let's say, think about my travel video to Poland. If I'm just transitioning from, hey, I'm in the airport, but now I'm in Poland, maybe something in the middle, I could put like a little B-roll sequence, right? Some slow-mo, something cinematic. And if that's the case, your use case is simply to impress the audience with dope visuals. If that's the case, edit it however you want to make it look good. So utilize that creamy slow motion, or, it really depends. But let's say you're making like a tutorial video on how to edit good B-roll. If that's the case, I would use something like slow motion footage while I'm talking about something important, so that way it doesn't really distract from the viewer. It doesn't take the attention away from what's being said. If I'm using slow motion footage, there's not much visually happening at once, so you can digest what is happening on screen and you can still understand what's being said. Now, of course, if I'm demonstrating something, like let's say I'm talking about camera settings and I'm saying like, hey, yeah, you go into the picture profile, then you hit down, then you click like Cine 4 and change that to Cine 3. Obviously, I would have that in real time to show you what I'm talking about. So the point here is when you're using B-roll, make sure that it doesn't take away from whatever else you're doing. It has to help build on what you're trying to do with that video. If the point of the video is to teach, make sure teaching is first and foremost, and the B-roll supplements that. If the B-roll is just there to make things look good, make that video look good. Edit that how it would look good, like dope edits. Of course, the key here about slow motion, normal motion, it's draw attention to what you want to draw attention to. Just like you'd use a vignette in a video to bring the eyes to the center of the video, you're going to be using slow motion if you want something specifically on screen to be noticed. You want to use real speed if you want to show a lot of information, like something that's happening, right? Now let's talk about when and when not to use B-roll. The whole thing about editing is about cadence, it's about rhythm. That's why when you watch like videos edited to music, like, travel vlogs, music videos, it always like cuts to the beat. You ever notice that? And some people will say, oh, that's so cookie cutter, that's so boring, there's a bass hit, cut, bass hit, cut. But there's a reason why it looks good. It's because it's rhythmic. It has, you can predict it, right? So you can nod your head to it. You can expect like, oh, cut, cut, cut. That's cool. So let's apply that cadence, that rhythm concept to editing B-roll. Let's say you're doing like a tutorial video like I am right now. You probably don't want to cut in the middle of a sentence. You can start to pay attention to these little things on when other YouTubers cut their B-roll onto their talking segments. It's usually like on the start of a word, on like a very like enunciated letter, or you could also cut before a word is said or before a sentence is started, so that way it's not jarring, it doesn't take away, it doesn't cut off a sentence midway through. Let me give you some examples on when you could cut to B-roll. For example, if I'm talking about a product, if I'm talking about an experience, I can cut to those things and show them instead of tell you about them. So if I'm reviewing a lens, I will cut to the product while I'm talking about the wide aperture. I'm going to cut to a shot of a lens with its aperture open wide. Of course, another time to use B-roll is to hide cuts in a video. Now, jump cuts are perfectly normal nowadays on YouTube, but at the same time, they still feel, I don't know, something amateur about them because it feels like, wow, there were so many cuts. It's also distracting. So a good way to use B-roll is to play it over cuts, especially when there's changes in dialogue, when you have to do different takes to stitch that together. If there's changes in lighting between scenes, if there's any of these things, you can just use B-roll, overlay all of it, and then cuts, especially when there's changes in dialogue, when you have to do different takes to stitch that together. If there's changes in lighting between scenes, if there's any of these things, you can just use B-roll, overlay all of it, and then see what I did there? I did exactly what I just told you. So that brings me back to when not to use B-roll. You don't want to use B-roll when there's something important happening or you want to deliver some important sentence. A good example of this, of how to deliver something important or to draw attention to something, is everybody's seen this on YouTube. It's when the music cuts, it's when the B-roll cuts, and it just cuts back to the A-roll. See how that like just got your attention there, because it's like, wow, that's the only thing left here. Ooh, heavy stuff. But finally, to edit good B-roll and to edit good videos in general, you have to remember that it's not just the B-roll, it's not just the music, it's not just the sound design, like the sound effects, the sound editing, it's all of them combined. If you want to make a good video, and if you want to have successful, good B-roll, then what you want to do is you make sure all three of those things blend together. You ever just see those really good B-roll sequences from like YouTubers that you look up to, and you wonder, man, just why was that so powerful? And that's usually because when you're watching it, not only is there just spectacular visuals, but there's also a really good track of music underneath that, and then at the same time, there's probably really good sound effects and blending of the sounds together. That's when things really come together. I mean, there's a lot of times people have said, like, you can get away with bad quality video, but you cannot get away with bad quality sound. And that's because it's just much more noticeable. So the idea is harmony. If the song is like a slow, low rhythm, low tempo song, you don't want anything that takes away. Your videos are gonna be probably slower, they're probably gonna be more chill, not too much happening at the same time, right? Probably a lot of slow motion, but then also the sound effects are gonna be very subtle. If there's gonna be whooshes, they're gonna be like, right? Instead of whoosh, right? There's not gonna be like a somber song and out of nowhere whoosh to the next clip, right? Because that would really just be jarring. It'd be like, that doesn't go together. That's 2 + 2 = fish. Like, what's happening here? And as a tip to you guys, pick a song first. A lot of times when I'm shooting a travel video, a lot of times I just have a song in my mind ready to go before I shoot all the footage, because it gives me an idea of what am I going to be looking for? What's the end product, end mood that I want to convey? What's the feeling I want to convey? And based on that, what I shoot, I'll make sure I get shots that complement it well. If it's a really fast, upbeat song, then I know, oh, I'm going to make a lot of cuts. I can make a lot of, big movements in the video. But if it's going to be a slower song, I make sure, okay, all these shots should probably be steadier, right? Not as shaky. I'm going to want longer takes, etc. So it's a lot easier to build ground up, mainly because music is so hard to get because, copyright, and then you have to find royalty-free music. And finally, you want to top that off and make sure that the sound design is good. You want to make sure the sound effects fit with the video. You want to make sure that the audio, the dialogue, and everything is edited to make it sound like it blends with the video. Like, for example, if I'm doing like a wedding, I want to make sure like the vows are nicely edited in. It doesn't sound like it's from like a tin can from a mile away, but it doesn't also sound like it's booming and way too like in your ears if the music isn't that. It's got to all blend together. But at the end of the day, none of these are like hard rules. It's like rule of thirds. It's like, complementary colors. First, you must understand what generally makes a good video and a good concept. And then once you understand those basics, then you can start breaking all the rules. And that's how you end up developing your own unique style. But don't skip the step of learning the basics and really getting to understand it. For example, I don't know everything. Obviously, I'm just another YouTuber, I'm just another dude with a camera who really enjoys the process of creating videos. And you just have to experiment and learn new things from a plethora of sources. For example, this whole lighting setup was because I recently saw YC Imaging's video where he had this like really nice backlit, it was just really good color contrast, and I was like, can I even do that? After watching his video, I went out and I got these color gels, so I was like, cool, now I can have a back color contrast, and I got this light up here casting like a more of a top-down light. Normally I have like a side-on light, and I'm really liking how it looks. It's all about experimenting and learning and adapting and then creating and finding your own style by, borrowing from everybody and then seeing like what you don't like and then making your own. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any other ideas that I didn't mention in terms of how to shoot better B-roll or how to edit better B-roll, leave them in the comment sections down below. I'd love to learn from you guys. Hopefully you guys learned something from me today. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button. If you want to see more of this content, hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to ring the bell if you want to stay notified for new videos coming out soon. And as always guys, catch you in the next video.